There's a club we're not in. It's a joke, we never win. Both sides got their masks on tight. Truth's a ghost in the dead of night. Fully in this circus stall, life for crowd, we've seen it all. In a world that's upside down, the beautiful don't survive.
Hey guys, it's been a while since I posted political stuff, so there is a bit of a roundup we can do. It is the 7th of August, and the Democratic Party, well, Kamala Harris has picked a running mate, but he comes with a fair bit of, skeletons and sort of scandals in his background. So let's get into some of those that are popping up right now. We have Tim Watts left National Guard Battalion, quote unquote, hanging and slithered out the door before an Iraq deployment, vets say. Veterans have accused Minnesota Governor Tim Watts of, quote unquote, embellishing his military career and abandoning his National Guard battalion, highlighting that the now presidential pick for the Democrats never served in combat and retired from service ahead of his unit's 2005 deployment to Iraq. Now, in his defense, I will say that Mr. Moe spent 20 years in the military and did not deploy for combat. He was in a medical, unit where they would give the soldiers their shots, make sure their labs were all ready, make sure any physical ailments were taken care of, and then he would send them off as they were deploying. So Mr. Moe has a similar, record of not being in combat. A lot of people think that the military is one big, infantry unit. No, there are so many support roles. You need so many supporting units to deal with the things, paperwork, feeding, clothing, supplying, everything else, logistics, building bridges, ramps, roads, that kind of thing, that a lot of your units aren't going to see combat duty, even if they go over on a tour. Now, likely, I mean, there can be battles and things like that, but that is not as much of a ding as I think people are making it. Now, him retiring from or prior to his unit being deployed, there might be, so the National Guard only has, limited spots per state for non-commissioned officers. So depending on if he was an officer. Oh, no, he retired Command Sergeant Major. Wait, no. Let me read the entire article. But there could be that they were trying to retire out some people so they could have upward mobility for younger, service members. This may be a big story. This may be nothing. But again, if you're going to run on your military service, then expect people to look into that. And if it's embellished, if you have lied, if you have embroidered your stories, then that is not a good look. In a letter posted to Facebook in 2018, as he first ran for governor, retired Command Sergeant Major Thomas Behenreds and Paul Hare said Watts retired from his 24-year tenure in the National Guard after learning that his battalion would deploy to Iraq, despite allegedly assuring fellow troops he would join them. I mean, that is something that I find detestable. If you say you're going to do something in a brotherhood like the military and then you go back on your word without any explanation, I find that more upsetting than the other things. Quote, on May 16th, 2005, Watts quit, betraying his country, leaving the 150th Field Artillery Battalion and its soldiers hanging without its senior non-commissioned officer as the battalion prepared for war, both wrote. Watts, 60, wrapped up his military career just in time for him to launch his political career the following year, successfully running for Congress in 2006. So this is the gentleman that is the running mate, and I will tell you guys, as a politically jaded and make fun of both sides, if you watch him walk out with Kamala Harris, it is just like on Stabby Day when you see that woman that's smiling and laughing at nothing. They have the weirdest body language in the entire world. And if I have time, I might do a video on that because holy fazolies, it looked like, well, it looked like Arkham Asylum had been well, all the inmates were loose, if you know what I'm saying. Both of them criticized him for leaving the National Guard for Congress, despite being fully aware that he could have requested permission from the Pentagon to seek office while on active duty. Watts further dodged the necessary paperwork to ensure a smooth transition out of military service and instead slithered out the door, the pair alleges, with his retirement filing showing soldier not available for signature. National Guard members also accuse the now two-term Minnesota governor of having quote unquote embellished and selectively omitted facts from his military career for years. The letter was first unearthed by the Daily Wire. Still, Watts has an honorable record, and other service members who led the same battalion have defended him. Quote, he was a great soldier. Joseph Eustace, who served 32 years in the National Guard, told the Star Tribune in 2022. When he chose to leave, he had every right to leave, added Eustace, who indicated that other attacks on Watts' records may have been made by disgruntled soldiers who were passed up for promotions. Another National Guard member who served under Waltz said that the future U.S. lawmaker was eyeing a run for Congress earlier than 2005. Quote, would the soldier look down on him because he didn't go with us? Would the common soldier say, hey, he didn't go with us, he's trying to skip out on a deployment? And he wasn't. Al Bonifield recalled to Minnesota Public Radio of Watts' concern about dipping out before deployment to Iraq. He talked with us for quite a while on the subject. He weighed the decision to run for Congress very heavily. Bonfield said he loved the military, loved the Guard, loved his soldiers he worked with. We all do what we can, and I'm proud I did 24 years, Watts said about his service. Watts joined the National Guard after high school and served with the 1st Battalion, 25th Field Artillery before his retirement, where he obtained the rank of Command Sergeant Major. During his subsequent tenure in Congress, Watts came out in opposition against then President George W. Bush's plans to increase troop levels in Iraq. Again, this might be a nothing burger story, but it is one of the things that is coming out, and I'm sure that there is oppo, research going on both sides. So I am sure that we will hear more about who this person actually is. He does seem to have fairly left-wing ideas. There is a quote of him saying, "One man's socialism is another man's kindness." So he's definitely not hiding maybe his more progressive leanings. And if that's something you like, then there you go. But I don't know that he is going to bring in with some of these more radical ideas and what happened in, Minnesota with the Summer of Love and him not calling in the National Guard after a bunch of rioting and looting happened. I don't know how every man Midwestern side of ranch he's going to appeal to. I strategically think that Kamala should have picked Shapiro, but I understand that the left wing is very divided on how they stand on Israel. But I think this person, it does seem, in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, that they are not putting their A team in. I think that these two are not sacrifices, but they didn't want to waste a Gavin Newsom or anyone else on this, a JD Prisker, even a Shapiro later, should things change climactically with the Israel-Palestine thing. I think that they are not picking their front row, people, and maybe picked a bench warmer that they thought could appeal to maybe women, given his track record on, abortion and things like that. But I don't see him appealing to the Midwest if certain things get out about him, how he ran the state. all of the controversy. I will be getting more into that as I pull articles. Now, another thing from his past. He was arrested for a DUI for driving 96 miles per hour in a 55-mile zone, and it's come back to haunt him. Again, Oppo research is going to be vicious this year. They have probably crawled through everything from his tax receipts to even his long CVS receipts. Kamala Harris's freshly minted VP pick, Minnesota Governor Tim Watts, was once arrested for drunk driving after he was pulled over going more than 40 miles above the speed limit. Watts, 60, who was 31 at the time and working as a teacher in Alliance, Nebraska, was caught on police radar, driving his silver Mazda 96 miles per hour in a 55 zone just before midnight, September 23rd, 1995. When the trooper approached the window, he detected a strong odor of alcoholic beverage emanating from the vehicle, court documents show. After flunking a field sobriety test, which, God, I wish they had, body cams for that one, he submitted a breath test which pegged his blood alcohol level at 0.128, well above the state's legal limit of 0.08. He was arrested and taken to Dawes County Jail. He was given a blood test, but those results could not be immediately confirmed. The following March, Watts pled the charges down to reckless driving, which required him to admit that he had drove a vehicle in a manner as to indicate indifference or wanton disregard for safety of persons or property. Now, I am shocked that they were able to drop the DUI, but maybe he was connected or he was a teacher and they had a teacher shortage. I don't know. After accepting the plea agreement, Watt's attorney, Russell Harvard, attempted to explain that his client was speeding because he thought the trooper was someone chasing him, alleging he didn't fire up the light bar in a timely fashion. Yeah, it's the cop's fault. You were driving drunk as a skunk. This is a little bizarre, but Mr. Watts thought someone was chasing him. The officer did not turn on his red lights, and someone just came up real fast behind him, and he didn't know what they were doing. Sir, you were going near 100 in a 50-mile zone. So he sped up to try to get away, fearing that someone was after him. Lo and behold, it was a state patrolman that was behind him, so the faster he went, the faster the patrol car went, he admitted. Watts wound up paying a $200 fine plus court cost. He offered to resign his position as a teacher at Alliance High School, but the principal talked him out of resigning, the court transcripts showed. The judge scolded Watts for driving under the influence, which particularly concerned him given his position as a teacher. This is a real problem for me to see a teacher get picked up for this kind of offense because you have to be a role model. When the issue of his DUI arrest was raised during Watts' successful 2006 campaign for Congress in Minnesota, his campaign manager, Carrie Greeley, told Rochester, Minnesota newspaper, The Bulletin, that he wasn't drunk and he was unable to understand the officer's command due to hearing loss he incurred from his time as an artilleryman in the Army National Guard. What? Ma'am, I'm going to need you to not lie about the military making him deaf. Okay, working in artillery didn't give him a breathalyzer of, 0.138, you dingus. She claimed that the judge threw out the DUI charges against Watts and chastised the officer for not realizing he was deaf. Sure, Jan. I'll take things that never happened for 800, Alex. Now, according to MPR News, Watts did have a surgical procedure called a strapectomy. To repair his hearing, which fixed damaged bones inside his ears, which I didn't know what they could do. Maybe I'm going to get that for Mr. Moe and he'll actually listen. Still 50-50. In serious news, because of the context and how close we are with Israel now going after the Houthis, who are based in Jordan but aligned with Iran. Also, you have Iran and you have a bunch of different things in the Middle East. U.S. personnel were injured in an attack against the Al-Assad air base in Iraq. Things are a powder keg over there, and I really fear, regardless of how I feel about this current administration, I want them to be strong. I want them to have a strong presence because our military, people that are around the world, when we have weak leadership, people want to take a shot. People would like to try. And I really fear that in these last several months of this sort of lame duck administration where we haven't heard from the current candidate and current vice president in 14 days with a sit down interview about her policies. Uh, and we haven't heard about policies at all. If you go to Kamala Harris's website, it doesn't have any policy platforms. It is really worrying that outsiders are looking in and seeing, hey, they're kind of in shenanigans mode. We should take a shot. U.S. personnel have been injured in a suspected rocket attack against the El Assad air base in Iraq, according to 3 U.S. officials who spoke to Reuters. The outlet reported that several U.S. personnel were injured during the attack. The outlet reported that sources were citing preliminary information about the attack, which could change. Security sources told the outlet that 2 Kayushka rockets were fired at the base in western Iraq on Monday. Base personnel are conducting a post-attack damage assessment, one of the officials commented. The attack comes as concerns over tensions in the regions have mounted with the unaliving of Hamas and Hezbollah terrorist group leaders. Human Events editors Jack Posobiec reported that at least 5 to 6 Americans were injured and that they were getting surgery. Some of them were. Iran has vowed to retaliate in response to the assassinations and is the backer of both Hamas and Hezbollah. The Pentagon has sent reinforcements to the region in case of attack from Iran on Israel. However, Russia is also pouring in assets. This is shaping up to be a powder keg that starts something terrible. All you need is a little spark, and there are so much tinder. I mean, things are already simmering, and I worry that without strong leadership, without people knowing what the heck is going on, where things are being planned, I'm afraid that our service members are going to be sitting ducks. I detest this. I detest that we don't have strong military leadership that is sounding the alarm about this. Last week, U.S. Central Command forces were able to destroy an Iran-backed Houthi missile and launcher in Yemen, said a press release. So we are essentially going into proxy countries. Iran has the proxies of Hezbollah and Hamas. They send them money. Joe Biden's administration just gave them a bunch of money. Now it is depending on how you look at it, it's either money that Iran was supposed to receive but was sanctioned out, or it was a big bunch of money that you just gave to people that like to blow shit up. Either way, it seems a bit dumb when, their central tenet in life is to destroy the West. I don't know. Quote, it was determined these weapons presented an imminent threat to the U.S. and coalition forces and merchant vessels in the region. These actions are taken to protect freedom of navigation and make international waters safer and more secure, Central Command stated at the time. In more recent weeks, Iranian-backed Iraqi troops have started launching attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. Why are we still there? Now, you can dislike, think whatever about President Trump, but he tried to get our troops out of Syria and Iraq. And the liaisons, the powers that be at the Pentagon, lied to him about the actual troop count. So they're like, your presidentness, we are taking down those troop counts. And they weren't. They were going behind his back and actively ignoring his wishes as the commander in chief. There has been so much political shenanigans. It is crazy. But I hate it when people in suits, when people that live in the safety of DC make choices that put people and service members that I love and that, have families that are daughters, that are fathers, that are sisters, that are brothers in harm's way because they want to, make a point or they aren't paying attention or they're AWOL right now. It ticks me off to no end. So there you go. Just keep an eye on it. Things are going crazy. And a reason things may be going crazy, the Pentagon chief, Lloyd Austin, was quote unquote surprised by the 9/11 deal, the DoD says. We were not aware. How are you not aware? How is the government unaware that they were going to give plea deals to the masterminds of 9/11? A death penalty free plea deal for the mastermind of 9/11 attack and two others that participated in the plot, quote unquote, surprised Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Was it maybe because you weren't there? Did you tell no one and go get surgery? I mean, what's going on? Who is in charge? I think that's, if you're politically homeless, if you're politically jaded, I think that's the biggest question. It's not really an individual politician anymore. What cabal of faceless bureaucrats are running the country? And why are they running it into the ground? Because regardless of whatever statistics they say, I go to Walmart every week and my grocery bill is terrible and I don't buy name brand stuff. So you can't, pee on my shoulder and call it warm rain. Eventually I'm going to look around and see you're doing it. This is not something that the secretary was consulted on. Pentagon, Pentagon Secretary of Press Sabrina Singh told reporters during a Monday briefing, "We are not aware that the prosecution or defense would enter into the terms of a plea agreement." Singh added that the Secretary of Defense thought that the best course of action would be for each of the accused to head to trial. If he believes that the family and the American public deserves the opportunity to see military commission trials carried out in this case, she said. Austin, 70, withdrew from the plea agreement on Friday night, 2 days after Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and alleged co-conspirators Walid Mohammed Sal Makbar bin Astash and Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Harwasi pled guilty to the terror attack that killed nearly 3,000 people on September 11, 2001. That decision was made by a retired brigadier general and senior Defense Department official Susan Escalier, whom Austin had tapped to serve as the Office of Military Commissions. The office announced the plea deal to the three al-Qaeda terrorists last Wednesday, but Singh said Austin believed it was a, quote, case of such significance that it was appropriate for authority to rest with him. The suspects have been held at Guantanamo Bay since 2003, and congressional Republicans, veterans, and 9/11 victims' families were shocked to hear the news of their potential life in prison sentences. Quote, "You are allowing these terrorists to avoid the death penalty, signaling to our enemies that the United States is reluctant to pursue full justice against those that attack our nation," said House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer from Kentucky, whose committee launched an investigation into the White House's potential coordination on the plea deal. "Let me be clear, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed should never be allowed to leave Guantanamo Bay. This man killed thousands. He remains a clear and present danger to the United States," the House Armed Service Committee Chairman Mike Rogers, a Republican from Alabama, whose committee had also probed the plea deal. Retired cop Kathy Vignago, wife of NYPD Detective Joseph Vignago, told the Post, "I'm angry and disappointed that enemy combatants who killed thousands of Americans in our homeland are now able to exploit the U.S. judicial system to their benefit, receiving support from American taxpayers for shelter, food, and health care for the rest of their lives." It remains unclear which military prison they would be transferred to in the event that the Cuban base shuts down, as Biden has suggested. The White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, said closing Guantanamo is something that the president is determined to get done before his term. Both she and the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, denied any advanced knowledge of the plea bargaining that led to the terrorists avoiding the death penalty. The president had no role. The vice president had no role because they're never there. What the hell are they doing? Joe is usually in Rehoboth Beach getting, I don't know, his bionic legs recalibrated. And Kamala is doing whatever the hell Kamala did for the last 3 years. I mean, I'm sorry to be a little bit more cursy and upset, But the fact that these people do not understand the pastis culture is really upsetting. You should watch Styx, Hex, and Hammer break this down. But basically, in the Middle Eastern part of the world, they don't respect, let's just say, civility and things like that. They respect, kind of iron rule. So if you told them, hey, you're in Guantanamo forever, giving them a plea deal just signals weakness. It's the exact thing that turned most of the tribal warlords in Iraq or Afghanistan, I'm sorry, against President Biden because he broke his word on the day that they wanted to move out. They renounced America and went on to fight with the Taliban, not to mention that the exit was planned or Biden moved it to the summer, which is traditionally just like a fighting time for that region in Afghanistan. It's when the warlords decide to see if they can make any more gains. So it really was the worst of all seasons, and I cannot believe that there is no one at the helm, or at least it feels like it, to be honest. It absolutely feels like there is no one at the helm sometimes. In sad news for the super mayor, Dalton dictator Mayor Tiffany Henyard faces blow to her power after the village freezes her credit cards. She was, quote, swiping like crazy. I mean, how much more does this woman have to do before the feds come in and just take her out? I mean, out as in prison, not, any other thing. I would like her to serve prison time if she is found guilty of fraud and she is, assumed innocent for right now, allegedly. I mean, that's a smugly face she has on there for doing all the craziness she has. Embattled Dalton dictator Mayor Tiffany Henyard and other officials lost their power to swipe freely on the Illinois Village's credit cards when the board voted Monday to freeze the municipal plastic after a spending frenzy. Dalton's director of administrative service will only be allowed to use the village credit card after the board approves the purchases, trustees said, according to reports, a blow to Henyard's control. This village has so many people with so many credit cards, they're swiping like crazy, and that's why it has to come to a complete halt. Lawyer Michael McGrath, who is representing Dalton's trustees, according to WGN TV. There are thousands and thousands of dollars for Amazon purchases, for PayPal, for Target, for Walgreens, for Jewel Osco, in hundreds and thousands of dollars, he said. The latter is a regional supermarket chain. Other lawyers for the trustees, Bert Oldson, said the main goal was to cut off her access and other operators in the municipality, the station reported. Henyard has faces accusations of misappropriating taxpayer money to cover personal expenses, including lavish travel and security that wasn't necessary. The self-proclaimed super mayor is in the midst of a federal probe that started months ago. The feds have requested a trove of documents from the village, as well as a restaurant Henyard owns and other ventures, according to reports. The controversial leader has angered colleagues and residents, including on Monday night. Quote, watching as this village is being run to the ground by a woman is ticking me off, one longtime resident said in a meeting, according to Fox 32. We deserve a mayor that truly cares about our village, not a mayor who sees our village as her personal playground, another resident said per ABC 7 Chicago. Before the meeting started, attendees already seated were forced to get back up and go through metal detectors that initially were not working. During the meeting, a handful of village jobs were slashed following a 4-1 vote, but Henyard, who has described herself as Dalton's super mayor, argued that the layoffs were political retaliation by the trustees. She said the workers who supposedly were cut, quote, would still be employed in the village of Dalton. Trustees claimed that the employment decisions were strictly business. The village is bleeding, trustee Brittany Norwood said, per the paper. If residents knew the truth, they'd be hitting the roof. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired to probe Henyard in the village, is scheduled to present her findings Thursday, so I will definitely be giving those. Although I trust Lori Lightfoot about as much as I would trust her for hair advice. So take of that what you will. In international news, Venezuela is gonna Venezuela, I guess. Venezuela has launched criminal investigations into opposition figures. Sounds familiar from something. It'll come to me. Venezuela's public ministry has opened a criminal investigation into presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Urita and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The country's Attorney General, Tariq William Saab, said in a statement on Monday. The public ministry said that the investigation was sparked by two opposition figures' call for the military and the police to, quote, stand on the side of the people, in an open letter published on social media on Monday. Venezuela's electoral body, long stacked with regime allies, declared strongman Nicolas Maduro the winner of the recent presidential election, but has yet to provide tallies proving his win. The opposition, which enjoyed strong polling figures prior to the vote, said it won in a landslide. Public ministry is accusing the defendants of, quote, falsely announcing a winner of presidential elections, adding that only the country's official National Electoral Council is qualified to make that call. According to the agency, Gonzalez and Machado will be investigated for the alleged commissions of crimes of unsurpassed functions, dissemination of false information to cause unrest, incitement to disobey the law, incitement to insurrection, association to common crimes, and conspiracy. The opposition had not publicly commented on this investigation. CNN did contact them for comment. Machado said last week that Gonzalez won by a landslide and posted on X the link to what she says are the results from Sunday's election. CNN has not independently confirmed election data posted by Machado. We have known for years what tricks the regime uses. We are well aware that the National Electoral Council is entirely under its control. It was unthinkable that Maduro would concede defeat. Excuse me. Venezuela's opposition and multiple other nations have refused to recognize Maduro's victory in the July 28th vote until the release of the full vote tally. The U.S., among other countries, considered Gonzalez the winner and said last week it is clear that President Maduro lost the popular vote. But it was the freest, fairest election ever. Maduro's government has in turn accused the U.S. of attempting to orchestrate a coup, which it denies. Well, I mean, Venezuela's going to Venezuela, the CIA is going to CIA, and at the end of the day, I just complain about both and nothing gets done. But it's not a black pill. Look, you guys, we can try to make small changes. The elected officials that affect you the most are the ones closest to your home. Do your research, find people, weed out the bad, corrupt ones if you have them, because small towns sometimes have those. You can work on your corner of the world. We can't always fix everything, but we can make our corner a little better. So those are the legal and political shenanigans. I will try to pull more about Venezuela and Vice President candidate Tim Walz to give you guys a clear picture of who he is. I will say that, I don't think he's going to help Kamala win with the rural, maybe independent voters. I think that this election is coming down to men versus women. Women are moving, younger women are moving remarkably leftward, while young men have found purpose and, strength in sort of leaning to the right and focusing on independence, self-growth, and accountability here lately. So it might come down not to rural versus city or blue versus red, but man versus women. I really think that might be the case, because it seems like what Kamala Harris is platforming right now is that Republicans are weird and cat ladies exist, and here cat ladies are here and hear us roar or meow. I don't know. Those are my views. I hope you enjoyed Politically Mo. I will try to get more content out here. The kiddos are back in school, which means I have time now, allegedly, in Minecraft. Anywho, have a wonderful day, and I will see you back in a little bit. Bye, guys.